Madam President, I want to talk a few minutes today about electricity and more specifically about how to pay for it. My people are really struggling right now. Folks in my home state of Louisiana, and I know this is true in your state, Madam President, and across the country, are facing some of the largest energy bills, electricity bills in the history of ever. In the past month, I've learned about a woman in Shreveport in my state whose electricity bill went from $182 to $243. A Baton Rouge resident whose bill went from $65 to $353. A citizen from my city of New Orleans whose bill went from $140 to $280 in 1 month. As one of my people put it, quote, "Your electricity bill should not be 1/3 of your paycheck." Now, I realize that to some Americans who are fortunate enough to be wealthier, these increases may seem insignificant. But many of my people in Louisiana, Madam President, live from paycheck to paycheck. And put very simply, many of the people in my state and many of their fellow Americans simply cannot afford this. Now, look, I understand it's hot. I understand it's hot in Louisiana. Here's a news flash. In the summer, it's always hot in Louisiana. Some days I think that God gave Louisiana a choice between good food and good weather, and we chose good food. I get that. But heat is not the main reason that these electricity bills are soaring. It's not. The main reason that electricity bills are soaring is because of President Biden's profoundly foolish energy policies, which have depleted America's natural gas inventories. Because of this, natural gas prices have increased 75% from 2020. Not 9.1% that you read in the newspaper, attributed to inflation in general, not 20%, 75%, and they continue to climb. Entergy, Madam President, is one of the largest electricity providers in my state, particularly in South Louisiana, actually all over my state. And Entergy just sent a letter to its customers. I want to quote from it. Quote, this is what Entergy told its rate payers and my people. The cost of natural gas, which we Entergy use to operate numerous power generation facilities, continues to rise. Natural gas prices in April of 2022 were more than double those of April of 2021 and 3 times higher than April of 2020. As a result, these higher than normal costs will be seen on customer bills. And that's why my people are so scared. That's why the American people are so scared. Louisianians are not alone on this. A recent survey, there's a very reputable research firm called Help Advisor. It just found that 24%, a quarter of all Americans, have reduced or gone without paying basic expenses so they can pay their energy bill, pay their electricity bill. What country are we living in? Now, the current energy crisis, and that's what this is is a sucking chest wound for Louisianians and for Americans. But yet President Biden refuses to budge from his war on affordable energy that got us here. I will say this, President Biden has been true to his word. Day one in his campaign, he said he would destroy America's energy independence. And by God, he has done it. He said that. By God, he's been successful. He killed the Keystone Pipeline. He's canceled our country's mineral leases. He stalled our country's pipelines. And he's told his banking regulators to dry up capital and loans for energy production. He's put the full force and weight of the United States government behind this effort to destroy oil and gas. And in doing so, he has intentionally forfeited America's energy independence. And that's why electricity bills are so high. I'll give you one example. I'm not going to beat this to death, but just last month, earlier this month, I guess, just before July 4th, President Biden's Department of the Interior released its 5-year federal leasing plan. That plan contained a maximum, doesn't even mean they'll do this amount, a maximum of 11 lease sales for oil and gas producers. You know what the last plan proposed under the prior administration? 47. It's clear. I mean, I get it. President Biden does not want the United States of America to produce its own fossil fuels. He just doesn't. His new plan is we're going to forfeit our energy independence. We have to have oil and gas to run the greatest economy in all of the human history. So where we're going to get it if we forfeit our energy independence? Well, we're going to buy natural gas and oil from foreign countries that hate us. So those foreign countries will have more money to buy weapons to try to kill us. That's what we're doing. Now, what's the answer? How do we fix this? Well, the answer, is to have the American people produce their own oil and gas. And we can do it. We've done it before. We were energy independent. My people in Louisiana know how to produce clean, affordable energy, and so do other people in other states. And this is what else my people would tell President Biden if they could speak to him directly. They'd say, Mr. President, with all due respect, we can produce natural gas. We can produce oil. And they would go further. They'd say, Mr. President, we want you to understand that we don't hate wind. We don't hate solar. We, the people of Louisiana, we want to explore all alternative forms of energy. Wind, solar, nuclear, clean hydrogen, hydroelectric. But they would go further and say, Mr. President, we want a balanced energy policy. And ours is the greatest economy in all of human history. And it uses a lot of energy. And 80% of our energy comes from fossil fuels. Do we work every day to make those fossil fuels cleaner? Yes. But we can't do without them. And when we try, this is what happens in terms of electricity bills. Madam President, let me close this way. 2 years ago, I was on this same floor in this very same spot right here. I was able to talk about how our economy was soaring. 2 years ago, I was able to proudly say we in America are energy independent, that unemployment is at record lows, and that Americans have more money in their pockets. And we can have that again, Madam President. The American people deserve it, and we can have it again. But not if President Biden continues to double down on what, in my judgment, is his bone-deep, down-to-the-marrow, foolish energy policy, which, when you scrub away all the rhetoric, amounts to this: wind, solar, and wishful thinking. You can't produce electricity with wishful thinking. And my people's bills are way too high, and they don't have to be that high if President Biden would just listen.